This presentation is talking primarily about competitive advantage. First, let's talk about what competitive advantage is. You come up against this concept a lot with new companies that talk about their product as if it is the only thing that has ever existed like it. Talk to somebody who's an artist and you'll hear all about how their art, their book, their song is the best out there, and they'll have lots of people around them telling them it's the best that's out there, just amazing, wonderful, and they feel like they should be worshipped. The problem that they have, and the problem a lot of companies have, is they do not have an actual competitive advantage. A competitive advantage is something that you are better at than your competitors. Let's bring up an athletic example. I do, as some of you know, because I share it in discussions, I do some Scottish games. Well, that is a place where some of the strongest people, and I'm not one of those strongest people, get together to throw stuff around. Okay, you have a lot of people that come from like powerlifting and strongman competitions and come to throw. So they're huge, big, strong people. Let's say one of them came onto the field and said, I'm going to win today because I can deadlift 500 pounds. Well, probably everybody in the upper classes there can lift 500 pounds. The fact that 500 pounds is a heavy weight, it's impressive, it's not bad, is irrelevant because all of their competitors can do the same thing. There was a time, and I share this story a lot, but it illustrates a lot of these points, when I sat in a business course. It was a strategic management course, and we talked about Walmart. This is back in 2005 during their heyday, and my professor asked, why do you think Walmart is so successful? This is when they were just throwing Target and Kmart to the wolves. I mean, they were going crazy. They've kind of calmed down now. Back then they were going crazy. And we had all these different ideas. Customer service, and they buy in such bulk that they get really low prices, and they don't pay their employees very much, and so their costs are low. And we had all of these wonderful ideas from even master's and bachelor's level students saying, here's what it is. Well, the professor sat up in front, grinning a little bit. He was about to retire, and he was a funny old elf. And we could not have been more wrong. And he, through financial statement analysis, showed us that in all of the ways that we had talked about, yes, they bought in large numbers so that their prices were low. Yes, they paid their employees too little and so their costs were low. They did all of those things that we had talked about. And so did all of their competitors. That was not their competitive advantage. That wasn't the reason. Turns out, by the way, that shipping was their main competitive advantage. They could get the products to their stores more efficiently than their competitors, and that allowed them to be as successful as they were. So a competitive advantage are those things that you can do better than your competitors. Have to be better than them. Not the same, but better. Now, in some cases, that is simply a matter of location. You could have a company that doesn't do anything really that special, but they're in the middle, they've got a really good location, which means the convenience factor jumped into it. Other times, though, we try to go head to head with the company, not realizing the competitive advantage that we have, or not realizing what they have. And that usually ends badly for whoever has the least amount of money squirreled away to survive that kind of a competitive fight. So, we're always looking for a competitive advantage. The other problem with competitive advantages, though, is that they do not stick around for very long. Even Walmart's advantage of shipping was temporary. Nowadays, they're losing that battle because other people have figured out how to ship more efficiently, and it's changed. So there is something called a sustainable competitive advantage. That is kind of like the white unicorn, the white stag, or whatever of business, is to say, what can you do that people cannot imitate ever? It is my argument that very few, if any, of those actually exist. We can have those that are more sustainable, but that means we're always looking for a new way to have one step above our competitors, a way to have a little bit of an advantage that nobody else has. That's a continual struggle. Now, to that end, we have three generic strategies. We have overall cost leadership, so basically being the low cost leader out there. We have differentiation, which is that we're looking for unique and valued products, and we'll go over these in more detail. Or a focus strategy is when we're looking at a niche product. We're looking at one specific target market and saying we're going to apply to and serve that market. And that's it. We don't care about the rest of them. We care about those specific ones right there. Okay? So, examples. Overall cost leadership strategy. McDonald's. Nobody really believes that McDonald's is the way they are because their food is so good. I get sick every time I eat that stuff. No offense to those who can. I think it's past trauma or something like that. I don't know. But their food is really, really cheap. They have good supply chain. They do things really well, and it's really, really cheap. Walmart, we've already talked about. A differentiation strategy. Apple. Their products are different. It's about the only thing you can say about them that's consistent, is they're different than everything else out there. You could argue whether or not they're better or worse, but they are different. Target. Specifically, they are different than Walmart. And that's a new thing in the last decade or so. Why? Because if they had tried to combat Walmart head-to-head with the low-cost thing, they would lose. They knew that, and so they changed their strategy to a differentiation, to where they are trying to appear to be higher, more prestigious than Walmart, and generally they've succeeded. They're still here. Kmart, on the other hand, still trying to go head-to-head with Walmart, and look how well that's working for them. A focus strategy, IKEA and Costco. All right. Now, just one note here real quick. The point is, with these different ones here, Costco's not really trying to compete with Walmart, not head-to-head. IKEA isn't trying to compete with Target. It's a different strategy, and it takes them off in different areas where, of course, you can steal business from another one, even if it's not a direct competitor, but still, we're not directly competing with them. We don't care as much about what they do. We're doing our own thing. Pitfalls of cost leadership. Too much focus on one or a few value chain activities. We're too drilled down on the costs. Increase in the cost of inputs on which the advantage is based, meaning if we say, okay, think about Walmart. If their shipping is so much more efficient, what happens if something in there changes and your costs go up? Then you're done. The hardest one, the strategy is imitated too easily. I'm still waiting, it's going to happen here soon, for someone to come out and just imitate what Walmart did to begin with, plus a little twist, their own competitive advantage, and do it even more efficiently. And they're done. As soon as Walmart wasn't the low-cost leader, what would they be? That's a problem. Reduced flexibility, obsolescence, certainly. Differentiation, making a unique product. You could do a prestige or brand name, think Prada, Gucci, those types. Quality, think Lamborghini, Ferrari, high-end electronics. Technology, innovation, think Intel, where they're continually coming out with the newest, fastest, whatever chip. The different features, you'd have those that are just luxury items, have more features than the other ones. Think a high-end cell phone as opposed to less high-end. Their customer service, think Costco and their return policy, Nordstrom and their return policy, Ritz-Carlton and their customer service, their dealer network, another possibility. Your focus strategy, narrow competitive scope. We want to help and service a certain type of customer, and that's it. Okay, we're going to select a segment, group of segments, a niche, and we're going to tailor our strategy to serve them. If I were to poll our class right now, what percentage of people do you think have a Costco membership? From what I've seen, probably not more than about 30%. That's about it. Why? Because who are they catering to? You're talking about middle class to upper middle class, because they don't have cheap items there. You've got to be willing to pay like $100 to have a membership. And it's not really worth it unless you're buying a lot of stuff all the way through the year. So we're talking middle class to upper middle class, preferably large families or business people. Do they care then about trying to take customers from Walmart? Absolutely not. They don't want those customers. They want their customers. Okay? And then we dedicate ourselves to those segments exclusively. If Costco were to come out with a, hey, we're not going to get rid of our membership fee and everyone can come in, that would change their dynamic and probably not for the better. Okay, there's two variants. You have a cost focus, okay, creating a cost advantage in its target segment, very focused, very limited, or you're differentiating yourself to a target market. So you can split this off into two different ways, but again, entirely focused on one target. Now, just last moments on the competitive advantage. A competitive advantage is the reason you make money in a company or not. Okay, that can be any number of things, but you have to have something. If I were to ask you about your company and you say, and I were to ask, what is it that you do better than anyone else? You would better have an answer. If you don't have an answer, you're probably not going to be around for very long. Now, switching gears. Financial ratio analysis. You may have almost certainly have done this in other classes, financial management and accounting, different things. I'm not going to go into great depth here, but I'll tell you what a financial ratio analysis will do. It allows you to compare apples to apples, oranges to oranges across different companies and across different industries. If you want to know the difference between how Walmart is doing and how Target is doing, you're going to use financial ratio analysis. And you're going to say, okay, there's different numbers in here, but the ratios will tell me how things are going. So, to be meaningful, you have to have analysis of how ratios change over time. So you can get a lot of information from doing it once, but over time is a lot better. You can see, are we improving? Are we going down? Sometimes the ratios will change depending on the time of year even. And then how the ratios are interrelated. The ratio in and of itself doesn't mean a whole lot. You could have one that in one industry means a lot. If it's over 2, you have a problem. Other industries, if it's over 15, still not a problem. It's okay. You have to add some context. Just getting the number is not going to help you. And then just a brief, you've got some different ratios in here, current, the quick, the cash ratio, all of these. These are a good example of ratios that you can use. They are not all the ratios you could use. A lot of people, if they're doing a lot of analysis, a lot of strategy, they will come up with their own ratios that they care about that are a little more complex or a little bit simpler. You still have people that are using ratios that they shouldn't to make decisions. It happens. But realize this is so that you can compare one company to another and therefore analyze strategy. If you have a big discrepancy between two companies, you know one is doing something a little bit differently than the other. Which one is right is up to you to decide, but there's a difference there. That's where you kind of throw up a red flag and say, these two ratios are different. What's going on? Now, just a note on the value chain. When we start to look at strategy and say, how do we change something a company is doing, or how do we analyze it? The value chain is a way to break it up into different segments and say, what are we doing at each segment? Okay, if we're talking about cost leadership, for example, are we doing that here, 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 or here? Where's that coming from, and how do we affect each segment? It's a matter of splitting it up into the smaller segments and staring at them and saying, how do we do this? So retail, primary value chain activities, partnering with vendors where you're getting your goods, purchasing those goods. Those two are separate, though very much linked. Managing, distributing inventory. Right here is where Walmart is big. These, not so much. This one. Operating the actual stores, marketing and selling. Any of these could be your competitive advantage, or they could also be your failing. Engineering, research and development. Engineering, designs, marketing, then service. As you break things down into different segments, different pieces, you can look at them with a little more detail and a little more specific attention to say, how do I look at my partnering with vendors? How do I look at vendors and figure out either a competitive advantage or a cost savings, a value increase, a quality increase? How do I do that? And we can do that with any segment of this value chain. Thank you for watching this presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and good luck this week.